In today's video, we will look at a few problems associated with work and conservation of energy. Problem 1. A car weighing 15,000 newtons starts from rest and rolls down a hill from a height of 15 meters. So that's that. It then moves across a horizontal surface and collides with a spring-loaded guardrail. That's this one. Neglecting effects from friction and modeling the car as a particle, find the maximum distance the spring is compressed. Let the spring constant to be 1.5 times 10 to the power 6 Newton per meter. Initially, the car is here, and the final state is when the car has compressed the spring by a certain amount. Let's call it x. Using the principle of conservation of energy, the mechanical energy at the initial state must be the same as the mechanical energy at the final state, when talking about the total mechanical energy. At the initial state, the car is not moving, so its kinetic energy there is zero. However, it is at an elevated position from the ground. That means it should have gravitational potential energy. So the total mechanical energy of the car at the initial state consists of only the gravitational potential energy. We shall take the ground level to be the level where the gravitational potential energy is 0 joules. Now let's see what happens to the car at the final state. At the final state, the car is also at rest because it has compressed the spring to the amount of x, the maximum compression that is. So the kinetic energy there is also 0. The gravitational potential energy is 0 as well because the car is at the ground level. However, since the spring is at the compressed state, the system should have an elastic potential energy. So the potential energy at the final state is in the form of elastic potential energy or spring potential energy. And according to conservation of energy, these two must match up. The gravitational potential energy at the initial state is given by the mass of the car times the gravitational acceleration times the vertical elevation, which in this case is 15 meters. Now let's look at the elastic potential energy of the system at the end, in the final state. When the spring is compressed, its elastic potential energy is given by half times the spring constant times the compression squared. So this equation has been turned into that form. mg is the weight of the car, so 15,000 newtons times 15 equals half. The spring constant is given to be 1.5 times 10 to the power 6 Newton per meter times x squared, and x can be determined. And solving for x, we get x to be 0.548 meter. Now let's look at part B. Calculate the magnitude of the car's maximum acceleration after contact with a spring. So since the spring force, the magnitude of it, is given by the spring constant times the compression distance, and using Newton's second law, equals to mass times the acceleration of the car. Now k is 1.5 times 10 to the power 6 Newton per meter. The compression has been found in part A, 0.548 meter. The mass of the car equals its weight over gravitational acceleration times the acceleration of the car, and we can determine A. We take g to be 9.81. Solving for the acceleration, we get the acceleration to be 538 meter per second squared. Part C. On the other hand, if the spring is compressed, say by 0.3 meter, what is the change in mechanical energy due to friction? So this amount is assuming the effects of friction comes into play. So what that means is, if you have friction or loss due to friction, the final total mechanical energy must be less than the initial total mechanical energy. So that means the change in mechanical energy due to friction is the final total mechanical energy minus the initial total mechanical energy. As we have seen above, the final total mechanical energy is in the form of elastic potential energy. So half times K times the compression, in this case 0.3 meter squared. And the total mechanical energy at the initial state is in the form of gravitational potential energy, which is mass times gravitational acceleration times that 15 meter elevated height. So this should give you the change in mechanical energy. So let's substitute the numbers. Half K is 1.5 times 10 to the power 6 Newton per meter. X now is 0.3, square that. mg is 15,000 times 15. And you get minus 157,500 joules. So that's the answer for part C. Problem 2. The figure below shows a car moving on a track around a circular loop of radius 10 meters. Find the speed of the car must have at the top of the loop so that it will just make it over the top without any assistance from the track. Let's look at the free body diagram of the car when it is at the top of the track. So you have its weight, let's call it mg. You have normal force, let's call it N. So therefore, you must also have an acceleration, which is a centripetal acceleration, because the car is moving in a circular motion, essentially. What that means is, the net force, which is the centripetal force, is given by mass times that centripetal acceleration. And from the free body diagram, the net force is provided by two forces. One is the normal force and the other one is the weight. So normal force plus the weight. Part A asks you to determine the speed of the car at the top of the loop so that it will just make it over the top without any assistance from the track. So that means the normal force is 0. So m goes away. AC, which is the centripetal acceleration, is given by the speed at the top, Vt, let's call it, squared over the radius of that circular loop equals to g. And we can determine the speed at the top of the loop. It is r times g square root. If r is 10 meters, g is 9.81, square root of that would give you 9.9 meter per second. Part B. What speed will the car subsequently have at the bottom of the loop at that location? So this is where the conservation of energy comes in. At the top position, let's assume the total mechanical energy is ET. At the bottom position, the total mechanical energy is EB. Conservation of mechanical energy requires us to state ET equals EB. We are going to take the bottom level to be the level where the gravitational potential energy is 0. So at the top of the loop, it would have both the gravitational potential energy with the magnitude of mass times gravitational acceleration times this entire length, which is 2 times the radius, plus kinetic energy because it's moving with some speed v sub t. So that would be half mvt squared. At the bottom position, the potential energy is 0, but it is still moving with some speed, so it should have some kinetic energy. Let's call it half mvb squared. So you see m goes away like that. From part A, we know v sub t is square root of rg, so vt squared is just r times g. And you see, doing a little bit of algebra, vb squared equals 5 times rg. This is 2rg, this is half rg, add them up you get 2.5 rg, times 2 you get 5 rg. And we can determine the speed at the bottom. It is square root of 5 rg. R is 10, g is 9.81, which will give you an answer of about 22.1 meter per second. Problem 3. An asteroid with mass 2 times 10 to the power 9 kg comes from deep space, essentially at infinity, and falls toward Earth. Find the change in potential energy when it reaches a point of 5 times 10 to the power 8 meter from the center of the Earth. Find also the work done by gravity. So that's Earth, and the asteroid is coming from deep space. So that's the initial state or initial location. The final location is, say, somewhere there. The potential energy of an object in relation to the gravitational field of Earth is given by the following expression. Let's assume it is at the distance r from the center of the Earth. It's minus the universal gravitational constant times the mass of the object times the mass of the Earth over that distance. So in our case, the change in potential energy is given by U final minus U initial. Note, initially, the object, or in this case the asteroid, is at deep space, which means the distance from the Earth is infinity. So according to this equation, that has got to be 0. And UF, when the asteroid gets to that position, is given by minus universal gravitational constant is 6.67 times 10 to the power minus 11. The mass of the asteroid is 2 times 10 to the power 9. The mass of the Earth is about 5.98 times 10 to the power 24 kg. Divide by that distance r, in this case that distance, which is that, 5 times 10 to the power 8 meters. And you get an answer of minus 1.595 times 10 to the power 15 joules. Find also the work done by gravity. Since we know the total mechanical energy is conserved, so the initial total mechanical energy is the same as the final total mechanical energy. EI consists of two terms. One is kinetic energy and the potential energy at the initial state. Likewise, EF consists of kinetic energy and potential energy at the final state. Let's rearrange the terms. UF minus a UI plus KF minus KI equals to 0. So the change in potential energy plus the change in kinetic energy is 0. However, from work energy theorem, we know that the change in kinetic energy is the work done. So immediately we see work done equals minus the change in potential energy. Since the change in potential energy is that, minus the change in potential energy is therefore 1.595 times 10 to the power 15 joules. Part B. What is this asteroid's speed at that point, assuming it was initially at rest when it was arbitrarily far away? So the potential energy at the final point plus kinetic energy at the final point equals the potential energy at the initial point plus kinetic energy at the initial point. Initially it was at rest, so that is 0. Initially it was far away, so potential energy is also 0 because r tends to infinity. So the right hand side is 0. The left hand side, this is the same as that, so minus 1.595 times 10 to the power 15 plus half times mass times Vf squared equals to 0. The mass of the asteroid is 2 times 10 to the power 9 kg, and you can solve for the speed when the asteroid gets to this point. Solving for V sub f, you get 1,263 a meter per second. And that solves the problem. Thank you for watching.